Number 1. The living room. When 6th grade ended, I moved from private school to public. It was about October at the time, and I had made several friends from my neighborhood. We hung out after school most days, riding bikes and going to the school local park. I got home from school on the bus at 3 o'clock, but my mom didn't get home till about 3:30 or 4. I wasn't allowed to have anyone over or go out till she got home. On this particular day, my mom had told me she was going to be late. At the time, I didn't have a cell phone. So I got the house phone and called one of my closest friends, Andrew, to let everyone know I wouldn't be hanging out that day. My group consisted of myself, Beth, Leslie, Isaac, Brady, Andrew, and Josh. After informing my friends I wouldn't be able to see them that day, I made my way upstairs to take a shower. I had been in the shower for about 15 minutes when I heard a huge bang from my downstairs. I remembered thinking that maybe it was my mom. As I was halfway down the stairs, wrapped in only a towel, I remembered she wouldn't be home till at least 5 o'clock that night. I panicked and ran back upstairs to find something heavy to defend myself with. The only object I could find was a math textbook. I raced downstairs into my living room. Lo and behold, standing in the middle of my living room was Brady. Extremely angry, I asked him what the hell he was doing in my house, especially when he knew that no one would be home. He chuckled and shrugged like it was some kind of joke, responding with, "I thought you should know the back door was unlocked." Swearing like a sailor, I told him to get out of my house. As soon as he left, I locked the door and made sure the front door was locked as well. Later I found out from Andrew that Brady had broken into my house, entering from a window on 3 different occasions. Nothing had been stolen, and Andrew had no idea what Brady has been doing while he was in my house. After this happened, I told my parents what happened, and they were just as upset as I had been. My friends and I cut off all contact with Brady after this. My parents never pressed any charges or anything, but my dad said he would if he ever saw Brady on our property again. The weird thing was, a couple weeks later, Brady had left the school, and ever since then, at night, I've been hearing knocking on my window, but I never see anybody outside. The front door. This happened when I was 19 and living in a shared accommodation during my 2nd year of university. A few friends and I had moved into a 3-floor house which we were sharing with the landlady's daughter, Sarah. It soon emerged that Sarah was an OCD-riddled bulimic with a lot of issues, who was not very happy about having to share her house with a bunch of young men. Sarah lived in a converted loft space, and the rest of us were dotted on the 1st and 2nd floor. We all had locks on our doors, but we suspected that Sarah had a master key for all of them. I lost my passport during this time, and I'm pretty sure that Sarah stole it after relations between us and her soured. I had an insomnia problem at the time and would often stay up to the early hours of the morning, watching films or pretending to write essays. One night, I decided to pull an all-nighter in the kitchen because I found I was being too unproductive in my room. So I sat at the table with my laptop and tried hammering away at an assignment. It's important to note that the kitchen had a particular sturdy door and had to be pushed open with force. It wasn't a door which would blow open with the wind or due to draft. At around 3 a.m., my mind wandered, and I turned away from my work. My heart leaped. There was a hand, gloved in black, placed around the door. The hand immediately disappeared, and the door slammed shut. My immediate thought was that it was Sarah. I jumped up and threw open the door. No one was there. I checked the front door. It was locked. I looked in my room on the 1st floor and up on the stairwell. There was no one there. which I still can't explain to myself because there was definitely no time for whoever slammed the door to get up the stairs and hide in time. My next assumption was that it must have been a burglar, so I grabbed a knife and charged up my housemate's room on the first floor and banged on it until I woke him up. He was half asleep, then concerned, but there was no way she could have gotten to that loft space in time without me seeing her. Till this day, I have no idea who it was, but ever since then, Sarah's been acting even weirder.
This happened to my dad in 1977 when he was a young teenager, 14 or 15. My dad was adopted and he had a kind of rough home life. He and his foster brothers would skip school, get into fights and generally look for troubles late at night on the streets of LA. Late one night, he and his brothers had been hanging out for several hours after getting into shenanigans. My dad decided to hitchhike back home while his brothers stayed out. The area where he was trying to catch a ride was fairly rural, with little drive-by traffic. A few cars had passed, but he was unsuccessful in catching a ride. Finally, one car drove past him, slowed a little, then started to speed off again. My dad watched as the car flipped a U-turn and then slowly drove back to where my dad was standing. Being street smart, this was already a red flag for my dad. The car pulled up to him, and my dad stared at the man in the driver's seat. The man had a cold facial expression and stared back at him for a few moments, and then reached over and pulled up the car lock to unlock it. Being savvy, once my dad opened the door, he looked inside the panel of the car and saw that it had been covered in plasterboard. No interior handle, no way to get out without someone opening the door from the outside. My dad took one last long hard look at the man's face before saying, "Nah, I'm good." My dad slammed the door and immediately started walking in the opposite direction of the car. Flash forward a year or two later, and my dad was watching TV when a news report came on that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Two men dubbed the Hillside Stranglers had been arrested for a series of murders in LA. When both of their mugshots were shown on TV, my dad very clearly recognised one of them as the man who offered him a ride. The implications of that night are terrifying. And while their Wikipedia articles state that all their victims were female, who's to say my dad wouldn't have been added to their list of victims?
Thanks guys, please share, comment, and subscribe for more videos. And remember, never forget to lock your doors.